Pfl Mena won from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The PFL is going over here on Friday night in the States, Friday morning in the States. I believe that'll be Friday night in Saudi Arabia. 11 a.m. on the East, 8 a.m. on the West Coast for this card. I don't even know where it's going to be televised, honestly, because they're not doing the thing with the zone anymore. Maybe it's on HBO Max. I'd hope it's on HBO Max. I don't know. But you've got 11 fights in this card, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know every single fighter on this card going into this. I know some of these fighters, like of course in the main event, you've got Abdullah Al-Qahtani, a guy who's fought 3 times in the PFL before. He's fought in Brave prior to that as well. Like a well-known guy, right? Somewhat well-known, right? But some of the fighters in this card, like there's an atomweight fight between 2 fighters who've never fought before. That's a crapshoot. There's a lot of fights in these card that the fights, the PFL does this. And Bellator has done this as well, as a lot as well. There are fights on these PFL/Bellator cards that are kind of obvious to pick. There are fighters that are designed to win. The PFL does this a lot. They do this in their season. Dakota Dachiva is fighting Chelsea Hackett in her second fight in the PFL season after fighting Lisa Malden in her first. She's fighting the 2 worst fighters in her bracket, in her division in the season, just so they can get her to be the number 1 seed in the playoffs and avoid a potential matchup likely with Liz Carmouche or Tyler Santos, right? And there's a reason Tyler Santos is fighting Jenna Bishop in their second fight, even though they both have won their first fight. Anyways, a lot of these fights, you can kind of tell who's going to win. There are some that are close, but some of these fights are designed for certain guys to win. Now, again, it's mixed martial arts. Anything can happen, but there are a lot of fights that you don't even need to entirely know the fighters to kind of think, okay, this guy is designed to win the fight, and this is who the PFL wants to win, so it gets you a good idea on what they're trying to push going forward, right? Abdullah Al-Qantani's 3-0 so far in the PFL. He's taken on, in the main event, Taha Bendaoud, a guy coming in from Morocco. He's fought in UAE Warriors a couple times. He's 3-0. Al-Qantani's 8-1. Other notable names you might know, Ali Taleb's in the co-main event, and you might know in our first fight, we're going to get to in a second, Malik Basahel. We'll talk about that in a minute. But folks, if you haven't yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more MMA here on the channel. We do UFC, as we posted yesterday, with our UFC St. Louis predictions with Derek Lewis and with Rodrigo Nascimento in the main event. That's on the channel as well, along with PFL Bellator. We do it every single time a card pops up. First time doing PFL Mena predictions. Well, it's the first time they've ever done a card like this, but if you want to see it again, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and leave a like if you did enjoy or you are enjoying. Let's get to our first fight here. This is what I was talking about. Malik Basahel taking on Harsh Pandya in our first fight of the night. So you might know Malik Basahel. They put 1 amateur fight on the PFL versus Bellator card, and they had Malik Basahel on it. Now he was 17-2-1 as an amateur, and he was fighting Vinicius Pereira, who was 5-0 as an amateur going into that fight. Malik Basahel wins it by unanimous decision. This is the professional debut of Malik Basahel. It's about time. Now, the PFL does not have a 125-pound division, but there can be a future for him maybe in the 135-pound division over in Bellator, right? Basahel is kind of small though. He's 5'5". I don't know. I guess he could fight 135 pounds. But anyways, he's only 22. He's probably going to finish his career out as a 135 pounder. He is the first fight of this card, and you kind of thought when they did the PFL Bellator card that they were looking to kind of promote Malik Basahel a little bit, and he was obviously going to be on this card. Basahel is from Saudi Arabia. He now trains, though, in Leeds, England, but it makes sense he's on this card. Taking on a Harsh Pandya in this one. Pandya, as of record on Tapology, only 4 amateur fights. This is his first professional fight. He lost his last one at the Amateur World Championships by armbar in the first round to a guy who's 12-2 as an amateur, who is now 0-1 as a professional. Lost his MMA debut over in Kazakhstan. But Harsh Pandya is coming out here, and he is just a can for Malik Basahel here. That's kind of how simple I can put it. I'm highlighting this fight because Basahel is a name that's been around the PFL before, and Malik Basahel should go out here and beat Harsh Pandya. He should be able to do it by unanimous decision or submission. I'm going to take the submission here just because I don't think Harsh Pandya is very good. He's 28 years old. He's making his professional debut. Bashiel's 22. He's young. He looked decent in his ground game in his fight against Reda. Give me Basahel to win the fight by first round sub in his professional debut. Okay, now we're going to go to the next four, just because some of these are easy to pick. The first one is a tough one between Mido Mohammed and Yazid Hussein. This one's kind of difficult. I'm going to take Mido Mohammed to win, though, Sure, his opponent in Hussein has never lost before. He's 3-0. But I do like Muhammad to go out here and pick up the victory. He's coming off a win by ankle lock in the first round on Zaruba Fight Night over in the UAE. His only loss has come at Matrix Fight Night by first round knockout. But he's a guy who's fought in UAE Warriors a couple times as well. He's got a fight against Mustafa Ibrahim Aradi, where he's got a split draw. But other than that, he's been picking up victories. And again, it's tough to gauge really how good these guys are sometimes, considering they are coming out of Saudi Arabia and some of these independent promotions aren't very good. He's taken in Yazid Hussein, who is 2-0 in UAE Warriors, but the guys he fought in UAE Warriors are not very good. He barely got by in his last fight in UAE Warriors against a guy who really doesn't have a professional win by split decision. Yeah, that's why I'm taking Mito Muhammad to go out here and win the fight. I think he is better on the ground, and I think that's where he does go out there and win. For Hussein, I think he's going to try to keep the fight standing, but I think Muhammad's able to win it by decision. Our next one here is Ahmad Tarak versus Abdulrahman Ali Sat. I'm going to take Ahmad Tarak to win. I'm going to take the Egyptian. He's looked good so far, given he's been fighting in a regional in Egypt, and I'll be honest with you, I am not familiar all that much with Egyptian regional MMA, but he looked good in his last win, right? Winning it by Peruvian necktie in the second round against a guy who's 4-1 at the time, who's now 4-2. He's undefeated as a professional. He's taken on another undefeated fighter, though, in Abdulrahman Ali Sat, who's 3-0. He is from the country of Jordan. He has won 3 straight fights in UAE Warriors. All by decision, though. I am going to take the guy that's been going out there and getting finishes. I'm going to take Tarek to win. I am going to take him by decision, though, because I think Ali Sat's ground game is decent enough to keep it from getting a finish, or keep Tarek from getting a finish, but I'm going to take Tarek to win by decision. Next up, this one feels like a gimme pick almost. You've got Maroon taking on Mataz Askar. Gonna take Maroon Belagoit to win the fight. I like him to take it by second round submission. I just think his grappling game is so much better when you look at this. You've got the Moroccan fighter who's 4-0. Did I put submission? I should have put knockout here. I think he's going to go ahead and get the knockout victory. Look what he's been able to do in UAE Warriors. He got a 51-second knockout in his last fight, and before that, winning the fight by first-round knockout as well. Taking on Askar, who is a guy who's fought in the United States. Askar, who's fought in the United States. He's fought twice in Anthony Pettis FC, losing his last fight against Ty Johnson by unanimous decision. You might be familiar with Ty Johnson, fought in the PFL against Bryce Meredith back, actually, that was just this year. It was just a month ago, actually, now. But, right, Askar's been around, hasn't looked all that great, taking on a more than capable fighter here in Maroon. I think he's going to win the fight by first round knockout or second round knockout. I don't know why I put submission, meant to put knockout for that one, as I'm switching it on Tapology literally as I speak right now. But yeah, I think he's able to win it by first round knockout. I don't think Askar is all that bad, but again, Ty Johnson, who I don't think is the greatest, was able to beat him and outpoint him. I think, again, he will get chinned here. I'm taking Belagoit to win the fight by knockout in the 145-pound division. And then our next one here, guys, I will be honest with you, I don't know what this is. It's two fighters in the atomweight division who the PFL doesn't have atomweight, obviously. They've never fought before. The only thing of record for Nada Fahim is a decision victory in Nightmare FC, which is a fight promotion in Egypt where she won by unanimous decision. She's 21 years old, taking on Hatan Al-Lissaf, who her picture on Tapology is a picture of her wearing an Atlanta PFL 2023 shirt. So I guess she's been signed to the PFL for a little bit here. I don't know anything about these fighters. I just don't. So if you look her up on Forbes, there's an article written about Hatan Al-Asif saying that it was a historic deal she signed with the PFL. She's 22 years old. She's a Muay Thai fighter making her professional MMA debut. She was a WWE fan growing up as a kid. Well, she's taken on Nada Fahim in this fight. And Fahim has actually fought in mixed martial arts before. But actually now as I'm looking through this, yeah, I'm going to make a switch. Okay, I probably should have done this before the video. I'm taking Hatan Alisaf to win the fight by decision. There is literally nothing on the internet about Nada Fahim, but at least her opponent is a Muay Thai champion. At least that's what Forbes is telling me. Taking Alisaf to win the fight by unanimous decision. I think her Muay Thai is better. guys, again, this was the one fight in the card. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I literally just closed my eyes and picked a fighter. I have somewhat backing now to pick Alisaf to win the fight by decision. Let's go on to some of the more interesting fights in the card. Okay, we have got now Elias taking on Hassan Mandour. In this fight, we're going to be taking Elias to win. He is 18-8. He's got a lot of experience. Taking on a guy who's 9-5. So, you know, not the best records on paper, right? But we're going to be taking the French fighter here in Elias Ismail. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but he's been around, right? He's fought in Brave a lot. He's got 6 fights over there. He is 4-2 in the promotion. He has gone out and he has showed a very good ground game. 15 submission wins in his career, taking on a guy here in Hassan Mandour, who is 9-5, who's been subbed twice. He's coming off a submission loss in his last fight in Octagon. That should tell you what you need to know in this fight. Elias is going to go out here and pick up the victory. A submission guy against a guy who's been subbed multiple times in the past and a guy who just got subbed in his last fight. Yeah, and Hassan Mandour is more than a can crusher. Like, truly. He's got a bunch of losses. And also, he's only beat guys who are like 1-0, and he beat a guy who's 0-1 before that. Yeah, give me Elias to win the fight by first round sub. That's as close to a lock as you're going to get. Next up, Tariq Ismail taking on Jara Al-Daaja in our next one here. This feels like another lock. You've got a guy who's 7-1 in Tariq Ismail, Desert Storm, taking on a guy from Jordan who is 11-7. I don't know what we're doing with this matchmaking here. Jalal Al-Daaja hasn't really beat anybody. He's lost to a bunch of fighters as well, and they have fought before. Tariq Ismail beat him in Brave back in 2019, so I don't understand the rematch here. Ismail is not that bad. He's from Kuwait. Now training in Canada. I believe he moved to Canada at a pretty young age. He went to the University of Ottawa. He trains at a TriStar, which is a well-known camp over there. All around, Ismail is pretty good. His only losses to Bernardo Sopaj, who had just fought in the UFC against Vinicius Oliveira. So honestly, like, I don't think Ismail is very bad, right? This is a guy who's been pretty solid. He's been able to go out there, pick up finishes, or pick up wins. He has only gotten one finish, but that was in his last fight. But he's a pretty solid striker. He is 33 years old, but this is a legit guy that the PFL has got on this card. I think Ismail runs right through him. I know he only has one finish in his career, but the guy he's fighting is horrible. Ismail by first round knockout. To our next one here, we have got Islam Reda taking on Adam Meskini in this fight. This is not a bad one. You got a 10-1 fighter in Islam, the Egyptian zombie meta, who's coming off a grappling loss to Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi in his last fight, a guy who is now in the UFC, obviously just lost to Luik Aradzabov in his last one. But you've got Reda taking on Adam Meskini here, who's 8-2, and something that you can note with some of these PFL Saudi Arabian guys is that, like, the UFC has gone into this region before and signed a lot of fighters, and they have gotten fighters. Like, again, you're seeing UFC names like Sopaj in the last one. I get it was a grappling bout that Reda had with Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi, but you're getting, like, guys that, you know, have been looked at by the UFC and the UFC has taken in. So I don't think the level of fights are actually going to be that bad on this card. I think there's a lot of regional MMA prospects that you haven't seen yet. And I think Reda's pretty solid. This is a guy who's been able to go out and get a lot of submissions. He's able to eat punches in the feet, as the nickname, you know, describes. He's got 8 submission victories in the past. Taking on Meskini, a guy who's probably going to want to go out there and strike with him, who's got a win over Jalal Al-Daaja as well, who we just talked about. He was able to go out there and TKO him in the second round. I just think Reda is better. I think his grappling game is really going to show superiority in this fight. He is an all-around BJJ. He's just primarily a BJJ guy. He's got more experience. I'm going to take the Egyptian zombie to go out there and get the fight on the ground and win it by submission. Let's go on to our featured bout now here. We've got Xavier taking on Rachid Haas. For Xavier, we've got the Canadian fighter, another guy fighting at a TriStar. He's coming off a split decision loss in UAE Warriors in his last fight, but he's got a fight against Vinicius Oliveira, who beat Sopaj in his UFC debut, who'll be fighting Ricky Simone at UFC 303, a tough step up in competition for Vinicius Oliveira, and a guy also who has lost to Ali Taleb. Ali Taleb has beat Vinicius Oliveira before, showing you again the level of competition for this Pfl Mena card is pretty solid. Like, these are good guys they're getting. Yes, Xavier got TKO'd in the second round against Vinicius Oliveira, but he's 2-1 since then. He's taken on a fighter here in Rachid Haz from Spain, who is 13-3 and who has fought in the PFL before. He was part of the PFL Europe Bantamweight season where he lost to Franz Malabo in the first round by a majority decision. Now, Malabo is a guy who ended up fighting for the belt, who lost to Khurshid Kakharov by TKO in the second round back in 2023. But Malabo's back. He's going to be fighting Luke Shanks in the summer for PFL Europe, so we'll see what Malabo does. But Haz has fought in the PFL before. He lost to Malabo. You might recognize the name Yanis Gamuri. Yanis Gamuri beat him by a split decision, but Gamuri's in the UFC now too, right? Like, again, I keep mentioning this. There's so many UFC names that some of these guys have fought. Like, these are good fighters that the PFL has brought together for this card. Rachid Haz is pretty legit, though. I really like what he's got all around, and I think he is the better fighter in this one against Xavier. We're going to take him to win the fight by unanimous decision. This is a guy, again, who has been there with the PFL before. He's a very capable fighter. I think he goes out there and wins the fight by unanimous decision. Now, here might be the name that most people know from this card. It's Ali Taleb. Ali Taleb will be getting a fighter here from the country of Jordan in Nawas Azkba. I'm probably butchering that, but this is one-way traffic. Ali Taleb is going to dominate here. Ali Taleb got the shot in PFL Europe, lost in the semifinal fight against Khurshid Kakharov by unanimous decision. Well, that guy ended up being the world champion. Well, the regional champion of the PFL Europe regional division, right? Like, that's not a bad loss that he had to Khurshid, right? And Khurshid's going to try and defend the belt, and, we'll see what he can do this season on PFL Europe. All right, that's Taleb's only loss, and it's his last fight. He's now getting to fight here on PFL Mena, and again, this is one-way traffic. He is put on this card to win. This might be the lock of the entire night. Maybe it's Ismail. It's probably this, though, right? It's Ali Taleb should be able to go here and absolutely dominate on the feet. It's going to be all him. If he needs to go to the ground, he can as well, but this is going to be an Ali Taleb first-round knockout. He's taking on Narwas here, who is nicknamed the Honey Badger, is coming off a win his last fight in MEFC 2, which is a fight promotion in the United Arab Emirates. He's fought Ali Taleb before in 2021. Ali Taleb knocked him out in the second round. They're running it back. He lost to Victor Nunez in UAE Warriors just 2 fights ago. Yeah, that kind of shows you all you need to see. I think Taleb does it again, but he just does it in quicker fashion this time. He'll go out there and get a first-round knockout. This is the guy, one of the guys they're going to be building PFL Mena around alongside this man, Abdullah Al-Qahtani. I think Taleb is more marketable because of his style of fight and because of the way he's able to get finishes. Al-Qahtani isn't bad. He's not, he is a former kickboxer who is from the Saudi Arabia, who has competed on the international level for kickboxing for them. And now, again, he's fighting in the PFL. He lost in Brave his last fight going into the PFL, but he's 3-0. He was the guy who fought, again, in the stateside PFL, just as a featured fight. He won against Lamar Brown by submission in the first round, beat David Zellner by decision, and then beat Reda in his last fight by third-round TKO. He's got decent hands, and he's able to win fights. He doesn't get the most finishes. That's why I think he's going to go out here and win by decision, because I think the guy he's fighting is not that bad. He's taken on a Syndicate MMA guy, and Taha Bendaoud in this one. Taha fighting in UAE Warriors, now training in Vegas. Not horrible at all, this guy is. He's 3-0. But I do think Al-Qahtani, again, is put in the spot to win. And for Taha, he is a primarily a bantamweight going up to 145 pounds. I think he's a little overmatched here just because Al-Qahtani, again, is the guy the PFL definitely, they definitely matched him up in a favorable matchup here. And Al-Qahtani's been there and done that, and he's gone out there and won fights in the regular PFL before as well. I like him to go out here and win. I think it's a very tough test for him because he's fighting a very good guy, a very good prospect. But I do think he will have a size advantage. He's fighting a guy coming up in weight. I think Abdullah Al-Qahtani should be able to win the fight by unanimous decision. So, folks, that'll do it for our PFL Mena predictions. Not a long video, but just wanted to go through this very quickly as this is coming up this week. If you do want me to do the next PFL Saudi Arabian card, I don't know when that's going to be, I will do it. But, folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank you all for watching, and Mamba forever.